What's up, Relentless students? Dakota here, coming at you with this week's new topic. Last few weeks we've been talking about the modern day prophet, and if you missed those teachings, I recommend you go back and watch them. Total of 4 of them, definitely worth the watch as an understanding of what our task is as a modern day prophet. Now for today, we're actually going to be diving into this idea of gods at war. So I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Ares over here in this corner, weighing in at 180 pounds. And over here we have Zeus weighing in at infinite pounds with all the lightning. Who will win? Except that's not at all what we're talking about. You see, for a lot of us, we think about gods and we go to the Greek gods or the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods. And you think about Hinduism and the gods that are over there. But let's be real. Raise your hands, who actually believes in any of those gods? Yeah, nobody's hands are up. Well, part of that is because I'm alone, but you get the point, right? A lot of us aren't looking and saying, oh, these gods are real. But instead, we're creating gods. We're creating gods out of things that we desire, out of things that we want. What? Weird, I know. But just bear with me. And so what I want to do is why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about gods, right? We're talking about this because for a lot of us, how many of us struggle with sin of some form? Everybody's hand should be up. I see you in the back. Put your hand up. Yeah, we all struggle with sin. Every single one of us. Why? Because we're human. And because we done messed up. And so with that, guys, we have this sin that we have to deal with. And a lot of us will look at it and we'll say, well, we're going to fix this problem. But then it comes back. And we fix it again. And then it comes back. And then we fix it again. And then it comes back. Why does it keep coming back? Why isn't the fix ending the problem? Because we're not fixing the real problem. We're dealing with a side effect. To give you an illustration of what this looks like, imagine with me for a moment that you have this really bad cough, and you're over here. It's nasty. All right, and you feel like, all right, something might be wrong with me. I need to get this checked out. So you make a doctor's appointment, or your parents make a doctor's appointment, and you go in, right? And they look you over and the doctor goes, well, I'm really not sure. I want to get some tests done on you. So he runs some tests, and sure enough, he confirms what he thought. You've got cancer. The only thing is, you came in there with a cough, and he thinks that if he tells you your diagnosis of cancer, you're not going to take it well. So he decides to say, you have a really severe cough. Here's some medication to deal with that, and you should be feeling better soon. So you don't beg any more questions. You go, okay, I got a cough. So you take off, you go home, you take your medicine, and you sleep like a baby that night. You feel so much better. All the while, the cancer is still killing you. And eventually that medication that he gave you isn't going to work. It's not going to be enough. Your cough is going to get worse. You're going to go back to the doctor and you're going to find out that wasn't the root of the problem. It was the cancer. In the same way, a lot of us deal with our sin the same way, except we choose to stay blind to it. We say, oh, my problem is I cuss a lot. I disrespect my mom and dad. I do drugs. Hopefully none of you are over there, but still, you get the point, right? There's a lot of different things. Maybe you struggle with sex or pornography or something of that nature. The point is, all of us struggle with something, but a lot of us are not willing to look at what is the actual reason we struggle with it. We just look at what we're struggling with and try to put an end to it there. And so, when we're talking about this, right, I want to say this. It's a mass majority of sin. So not every single sin, but a mass majority of sin is based on worshiping something other than God. A mass majority of sin is based on worshiping something other than God. All right, so when we think of worship, a lot of us are like, I don't worship my sin? What? Who does that? What? Do you sacrifice to it? Do you commit to it? Do you serve it? And I know a lot of you are probably going, no. You're probably wrong. Don't you love it when adults say that? No, so this idea, right, is that we sacrifice to it in the way that we give up something for it, right? We give up our time, we give up our money, we give up ourselves sometimes for this thing. We commit to it, right? We have a routine about it. For some of us, maybe it's, I cuss specifically when I'm in front of my friends and I can't stop. I have to do it. If I don't do it, well, I have to do it, okay? We commit to it. We serve it. We allow it to take us captive. It's as if we say, well, I'm using this because I cuss because I want to. I say whatever words I want to. And then eventually we say it so many times that it just becomes second nature, and we can't even stop doing it. For some of us, we disrespect our mom or dad once to see if we can get away with it. Maybe you did, or maybe you did at least in your mind. So what do? You do it again. You do it again. You do it again. And next thing you know, you can't stop yourself. You're doing it, and you're like, did I just say that? And that's just what we do. Why? Because it's become a god. Because it's something that we've started to worship now instead of actually trying to deal with in our lives. We just kind of cover it up a little bit, right? So when we think of other gods, a lot of us might be thinking, hopefully thinking of the book of Exodus, right? Book of Exodus, right? You got the Israelite people are in captivity to the Egyptians. Moses is stepping in and he's pulling these people out of captivity and bringing them into the wilderness. If you want to know more about the book, in our daily devos, we are actually going through the different books of the Bible. Check out the one on Exodus and see what is going on there. But in what we're looking at the 10 Commandments, right? So Moses, he goes up to the mountain of Sinai, and God comes down and he speaks to Moses and he tells him what the laws are going to be. He writes 10 of them in particular, and we're going to take a second. We're going to look at this first one, right? Well, first and second one, right? It's found in Exodus 20, verses 2 and 3, where it says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. All right, so you got to think about it from the Israelite perspective, right? These people that have been saved from Egypt, they're coming out of it, and they have been in Egyptian culture now for years. They've been enslaved for years. So they're going to have adopted some of those gods as their own. So yeah, they're still worshiping Yahweh or the God above, but they're also worshiping gods like Ra. Why? Because the Egyptians did. Because that's what they were surrounded by. And so for a lot of us, we may not even be worshiping the God that we're worshiping because we chose to, but we're worshiping these things that we've turned into gods because our friends have, because our parents have, because our leaders have, our teachers have. We look at these people and say, well, they're doing it. Maybe it'll help me. When probably? No, not probably. It won't help you. The only one that's going to help you is upstairs. Yahweh. It's God, right? The one and only, the true God. And so what happened is these Israelites were worshiping all these other gods. So God says, you'll have no other gods before me. Okay, so it's like a pyramid scheme. God's got to be at the top. Pyramid scheme, get it? I'm funny. Anyway, no, it's not a pyramid scheme. When God is saying he wants no other gods before him, he's saying in his presence, you can't worship me, God, right? You can't worship God if you're worshiping something else, if you're worshiping other gods. And so for us, when we read this, we have to think about the fact that we can't worship God the way we're meant to when we're focused on these other things that we're turning into gods. Okay, so how do we figure this out? How do we figure out what is a God in our life, right? What is your God that you're serving, if not the true God? This can only be found when we take time and focus on what is our drive. All right, when I say this, I want to be really careful, right? Because a lot of us think of drive and we compare it to our motivation. And when I'm saying this, I want to say there's a drive that we respond to, okay? That we're saying, this is what I want to do and I'm responding to it. And then there's the drive that we serve, right? It's a goal that I do everything to ensure that this happens. I do everything to make sure I go to college. I do everything to ensure that my friends think I'm cool. That's what's driving me. Instead of, I want my friends to think I'm cool. God, what can I do? No. I want my friends to think I'm cool, so I'm going to do everything I can to be cool to them. Right? And isn't that something that drives you? Maybe. The point is, we're looking at what drives us, right? What is the goal? What is being served? Okay? And if it's not God, whatever your answer is, that is your God. That is what you're worshiping. You're sacrificing, committing, and serving. Okay? So how do I identify the gods in our lives? So for a lot of us, you're probably thinking, well, swearing is not a God in my life. Disobeying my parents, like that, disrespecting them, that's not the God in my life. Well, what are you talking about? Let me break it down. Imagine with me, right? We're all going on walks right now. It's quarantine, all right? So you're going on a walk. Hey, there's a stream. Man, why is it so dirty? There's trash everywhere. I gotta pick this up. So you start picking up. A couple hours go by. There's still a lot of trash. I've made a dent. I think, all right, so I'm gonna tie this up. I'm gonna take care of this trash, and I'm gonna come back. This is my route. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll clean it some more. So you go back to your walk. All right, next day you come back. You get back to the stream. Why is it worse? There's more trash here than before. What am I going to do? I can't clean this up. How do they trash it this much in a day? And then you look up the stream and you go, wait, there's more trash that way too. So you decide to follow the stream. And as you follow the stream, you finally get to where the stream began, the root of the stream, if you will. And you look up, and it's a trash yard. It's a bunch of just trash. There's a dump truck dumping. Oh! And as you look, you'll see that the trash is being pushed over the edge and into the stream, and then the stream is carrying it down where you found it back at the base. So for you to actually clean the stream, you would have to get rid of the trash that's falling over and into the stream and deal with the actual root of the issue. When we're looking at our sin and we're trying to understand where our God is, what is our God, we have to figure out the desire of our heart. Okay, so when we say heart, right, we're talking about this idea that in ancient culture, right, they used to think of the heart as where our thoughts, feelings, and emotions came from, right? Because it was the center, it was the source of everything. And then they would say your mind went on. We now know with science that, thank you neuroscience for telling us our brain is what makes us feel. Whatever. So now the idea, right, is that what is the desire of your heart? What's the desire of your mind? What is the desire? What is driving you? Okay? And for a lot of us, the sin itself is not what's driving us. There's something behind the sin. There's an idol behind the sin, a God behind the sin that's actually driving us to do these things. And so when we're dealing with the sin, right, when we're like, okay, I'm not going to swear anymore. I got to stop that, right? All we're doing is picking up the trash by the string. And we're going to leave and think that we've taken care of it. And when we come back, we're going to see the trash is back, and we're right back where we were. We're back to swearing. In a more extreme example, think about it, you're dealing with pornography. All right? You have an accountability partner. You put blocks on your browser. Time goes by. You get a new phone. New phone doesn't have the block. You move. You don't have the same accountability anymore. Things happen, right? And now you're back into the sin. Why? You never dealt with the root of the problem. So how do we figure out the root of the problem, right? Again, it goes back to the idea of the desire of our heart. There's some questions that you could ask that will really help you figure out what is your true desire, okay? What disappoints you? And I'm not talking disappointing like, oh man, I got a B plus instead of a A. Darn. I'm talking disappointment where you're ready to break down into tears. Disappointment where you get mad, where you throw a fit, okay? What do you complain about? And I'm not talking complaints like, oh man, my food's cold. I'm talking complaints like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this person, I do this thing, and you make that complaint every single day, right? It's a daily complaint. Where do you make financial sacrifices? What has your money? What takes your money? Where do you give your money? What do you spend your money on? Why don't you have money? What are you sacrificing your money to? And for some of you, I know you're thinking, I don't have a job right now. And that's fine. Look at the other questions then. What worries you? What causes anxiety to well up inside you to the point that you're ready to just rip your chest open because you need somehow to breathe? What is causing that anxiety, that worry? Where is your sanctuary? I'm not talking church sanctuary like I'm standing in right now. I'm talking sanctuary like what makes you feel safe at the end of a really long, hard day. Are you turning to video games? Are you turning to music? Or are you turning to God? Are you turning to the Bible, right? What infuriates you? What is making you angry? What's like, oh! You want to punch a hole in the wall or something, right? What is infuriating you? What are your dreams? What are your dreams? So over the next few weeks, we're going to take time and we're going to dive into not answering these questions, but no, we're going to talk about the different roots, the different gods, the different idols that you might have. And we're going to talk about them in light of what are they, how do they take over, and what do we do? How do we stop them? Because for a lot of us, what it is, if you take time and you actually look through these questions, I'm going to post the questions below on this YouTube video, right? And I want you to take time and I want you to actually ask yourself these questions and see if you can figure it out. See if you can figure out what the root of your problem is. And for some of us, it might not click until you hear it. So over the next few weeks, we're going to go through these different problems and we're going to try to figure out what is the root of our sin. And how do we stop that? How do we turn ourselves from looking to God little g to God big G? How do we find comfort in God? How do we instead give everything to God, sacrifice to God, commit to God, and serve God instead of whatever this thing is? Because let's be real, for a lot of us, our sin, we might think we've got it under control, but again, we think we've got it under control because we're putting blocks onto it instead of giving the actual thing, the thing that's becoming a God, to God to deal with. Because we can't deal with it. Gods are too big for us to handle. That is this whole idea, right, is that these gods are at war for the throne of our heart. The throne of our heart is this idea that this is where whatever sits on the throne, that's your desire. And if God's not on the throne of your heart, something else is. I don't know what that is for you. A perfect example of this, guys. So when I was in high school, I wanted to be the cool guy. I wanted to be the popular guy, right? And let's be real. Let me just pause it. I was the cool guy. I was the popular guy. But that doesn't matter, right? I was serving this goal that I had to be known and recognized. That was my desire. I had to be known. People had to know me. Not only did they have to know me, they had to like me. I dealt with some stuff in my past. It was not cool. I was bullied and taken advantage of in ways that just were not cool, right? And I'm not talking weird, like I'm not talking sexually or anything. I'm just saying, like, I was a nice guy. People took advantage of that. I got bullied all the time. And so I wanted, when I moved to Michigan, right? And I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be the popular guy. And so within a group of my friends, one of the big things they did was they played this card game called Magic the Gathering. I still play that game today. I'm just a little more careful about my purchases with it. Because what happened was I had a job going into the summer after my senior year, just before college, okay? I made some decent money. I turned around and spent all that money on Magic cards. Thousands of dollars that summer I spent on a card game so I could beat my friends so they would stop picking on me about losing all the time. I spent big money to get these cards so I could have this collection, so I could brag about the size of my collection to my friends. So that way they would think, oh, he's the cool guy. I like him. What? Thousands of dollars? I'm going to college like 2-3 months later. I'm not even going to see these friends anymore. But I had to be the cool guy. I had to have them like me. And so as I went into college, okay, Magic the Gathering slowed down. I stopped buying as much. But I still had to have people like me. And I was trying to be the popular guy, the cool guy on campus. And it took a long time for me to be able to take a step back and say, that's not what this is about. And honestly, part of what helped me do that was my wife and her ability to point that out, that sometimes that's what I do. Right? So it's something where we have to find ways to find the root of our problem. We have to be willing to ask ourselves these tough questions. I wish that I'd asked these questions before I spent all that money on the dang cards. But that's just me. And hopefully for you guys want to see, right now, you're young. You have time to figure out the root. What is a God that you worship that's not the true God? And eliminate it before you get into your adult life and you can make even more, or potentially make the first really bad decision. Because without God on the throne of your heart, with something else on the throne of your heart, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go down a path that makes wrong decisions. Look at Exodus. Look at what happened to the Israelites, right? God is up there and he is giving Moses the 10 Commandments. What are they doing down below? They're like, man, it's been a while. I bet Moses is dead. We need something to worship. So then Moses' brother Aaron, who should be this really righteous guy, okay, we're talking Moses' brother, goes, give me your gold. I'm going to make a golden calf and we can worship it. Moses comes down. What are you doing? And there's a cow, a giant golden cow that these people are worshiping because it was taking too long for God. You barely got the commandment and you're already breaking it. So I'm not here to say this is an easy process for us. I'm just saying that when we turn to God and truly trust in him, then he is the desire of our heart and we can live in his will. And honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be a good life, but it's going to be a much better life and one that's actually worthy of what's going to happen in the end, right? Because when all is said and done, what we do here, what we physically do matters, not what we gain, right? Because it's about what we're doing for him, because his goal is to work through us. And so when we talk about this, again, these gods are at war for the throne of our heart. Who is the God over your heart? Is it the one true God? Or is it something else? And so over the next few weeks, like I said, we're going to discuss these different gods that we create in our lives. And we're going to talk about how to dethrone them so that God can be on the throne of our hearts. Guys, I just want you to know you are loved, you are missed, and you are constantly prayed over. over the next few weeks, we're going to be starting to gather again. All right. And I'm not talking like full-fledged entire gathering stuff. I'm talking we're going to find ways that we can get together in small groups to allow for some fellowship, right? So when we start doing this, right, you're going to see the first one is actually going to be on this coming Tuesday, June 2nd. Ashlyn Lister is going to be having the girls meet at Rogers Park at 6 p.m. to do a hangout. Guys, there's going to be more information coming out here in the next couple of days for our first gathering. And then middle schoolers, there's going to be more information coming out as well. But just know that next week this means, okay? Next week, we are trying to get all groups to find ways to gather. All right. And with that, guys, I'm not going to be doing heavy teachings during those times. Teaching videos are still going to be the thing, and we'll do some small devotions when we're together. But really, it's going to be about having some fun and just reconnecting. Because it's been a minute, guys. We miss you. And I know you miss me. I'm too cool to... Oh, is that... I'm kidding. But you know, you get my point, right, guys? Well, hey, have a great one, and we will see you this time next week.